Apex a bit soon. Stay up. That's it. Out we go. In. Apex as well. Oh, we missed the apex there. Let's go out. Right out the concrete. Latch out in fourth gear. Third gear. Fourth down. 35 down. Welcome to another episode of repairs to this poor old Triumph 2500 Mark 1. So what's happening now? Well, it's the time to get into the engine bay. And there's some challenges to be had in there. Some things just bolt straight on. There's a whole lot of small jobs, oil lines to go to the oil cooler, and all sorts of little doodads to be dealt with. It's some of the other stuff that is more concerned. Because it's got power steering now, that's going to be probably where the problems start. The power steering pump, I'm pretty sure, is going to end up fouling on one of the electric fans. So I'm going to look at and try and engineer some way of putting one of the electric fans on the front of the radiator and the other one in its current location on the passenger side of the radiator. So that'll mean bracketing and which will slow things down a fair bit. Other things like putting the carbies on and what have you should just be a matter of bolting everything on. So let's get on with it. Alrighty then, the first thing I'm going to do is put this oil hose on. This is the one that goes from lower down in the block and feeds extra oil up into the head. It's a non-original thing. It's always had one on it, but this one's just a new, nice fancy braided one. I've had to partially remove the lifting sort of hook in order to get in to where this thing bolts on. Well, that's that oil hose on. That was one of the hardest jobs I've had to do so far. Couldn't get to it. Had to pull the bonnet latch off in the end, and that in itself had its challenges. So anyway, it's on now. Next up, there's some hoses that go from down near the oil filter to the oil cooler, and there's also this that goes down to the clutch slave cylinder. So let's get on with those jobs. The oil cooler line's on. While I'm in this area, I might as well put the oil pressure gauge and oil pressure light line on as well. Alrighty, that is the oil pressure gauge and the light and what have you done up. Next job, I think we'll do this clutch line. And now this is new. The old one was probably the original one. It was always that little bit too short. Since I put the spin-on adapter on, it was probably fine in the old days, but with that spin-on adapter on, it was hard up against it and was always a bit of a pain. I'm hoping this one's a little bit longer maybe. We won't know until we get down and under and find out which way it's gonna have to go. So let's get on with that. Well, let's have a go at this slave cylinder hose and see if that's going to be a hard job or not. Doesn't look it, but that's never a way of telling. Alrighty, that's the cable that goes down onto the slave cylinder done. Well, now the next job on this car is to fit electric fans. Now, I'm not 100% sure that the power steering pump's going to be in the way of what is the electric fans that are currently on it, but I'm pretty sure it will be. So it had two 10-inch fans on the engine side of the radiator. I'm pretty sure one of them is not going to now fit. So I'll leave one, hopefully, 10-inch fan on that side. And I've bought two 8-inch fans to put on the grill side of the radiator. I can't fit the 10-inch one on that side. So I've got to make brackets to do that. So that's just a lot of drilling and hacksawing and bending and what have you. So let's get on with that job. Alrighty, the fans are half bolted on. There's a bracket up in under here, which those bits of aluminium bolt to, and they're bolted in, so the fans are in. What I need to do now is make another bracket to go along at the bottom to hold them down there. So let's get on with that then. Well, that's the fans fully bracketed on. Absolutely not 100% yet, because two of the bolts that hold this lower bracket here on also hold the radiator on, so till the radiator goes in that won't be tight. Otherwise the fans are on. So the next job is the radiator. So let's get on with that. Well, it's time to put this radiator in, which weighs a ton. Now, Originally these radiators were held in with captive nuts, like 4 of them, but 3 of them are long gone. One's still there. On this side I've put what in effect is a captive bolt. It's part of the fan bracketing. I cut a thread in it and screwed a bolt into it, so it's at least sort of there, because it's very hard to get your hand up to, it's a 2-person job to be on this side of the car and on that side of the car, as well as the oil cooler's in the way. So anyway, it's sitting there now, and it's time to put the bottom bolts in, and there's a bracket for the fan that goes on this side, so I need to do that. So let's get on with that. Gonna have to get the alternator belt and the power steering belt on before that bracket gets put on properly, because it's a close thing. Alright, that's the fan back on. I'm pretty sure the other one wouldn't have fitted. Anyway, I'm worried about that bracket though. But I'll get the alternator on next, and then turn my attention to that power steering, and bottom radiator hose is going to be fun as well. Alright, let's get this alternator on. It is the alternator that came off it, but it's been rebuilt and made to look nice. The coils are in the way. Can't get this bolt in from that side because of the radiator, and from this side because of the coils. The coils are going to come back off. Well, the alternator's on, and the coils are back on. So it's time now to move on to the dreaded power steering pump. Now this is where the power steering pump goes. I know from past experience that it's a bit tight, so let's get on with it. Well, it's time to put the power steering pump on. Now, my old man used to have 2 of these cars, and the other one was a power steering car. And my sister had one, and it was power steered. And so I have had a bit to do with the power steering in them. And, well, my memory of it is that it's all a bit difficult and tricky and tight. So it's got to be done, so let's get on with it. Alright, brackets on. Let's get this pump down in there. And my memory of putting these power steering pumps on is that it's hard to get them so they're straight, so that the belt's running straight, and also to get them tight. It's been a while. I think it's got one bolt that's just a bolt, it's not adjustable, and it's got 2 sort of slide like an alternator in a slot, and that's where the problem lies. You sort of pull on it and it wants to pull sort of crooked. So I'm going to do one of them up. Yeah, anyway, I'm going to have a go at it. Well, that was easier than I thought. I remember there was a hard job on this power steering pump. Maybe it's going to be the hoses. And that'll be the next job, so let's get on with that. Well, much to my amazement, it looks like I will be able to fit this fan in where the power steering pump is. It's all pretty close, but I think it will fit. That means I got a bit carried away with putting the other two fans on. But that doesn't matter because even though this car never had an overheating problem, it won't hurt to have an extra couple of fans on there. I'll wire them up in such a way that they turn on at a hotter temperature than these two fans. So they'll be there for that day you're stuck in sort of midsummer city traffic or something and everything's getting a bit hot. So anyway, let's get on with putting this one on. Well, there we go. Both fans are now on, as is the lower bottom radiator hose, which was a bit of a task. There's not a lot of clearance and not a lot of room in there. Heaven help me if I ever have to replace a belt or a hose on the side of the road. Anyway, a few more minor jobs to do, so let's get on with them. Alrighty then, it's time to put the catch tank on. A lot of the wires are connected, hoses are connected, fuel line hoses and doohickeys like that. The next major thing is the carburetors. That won't happen for a bit as I put this catch tank on, and a few other things before then. So let's get on with it. Alright, it's time to put these carbies on. Now these are pretty well just about the last thing to go on, so let's get on with it. Well, this manifold and carburetors is sort of considerably harder to put on than it used to be, because the power steering pump's in the way. You used to be able to get your arm down in, and you can't do that now with the power steering pump there. If, and that's probably a big if, I ever take these off again, I'll be taking the carbies off and then the manifold. And that's how they should have gone on this time, but I was on the verge of doing that, but I got a tricky bolt in, so I've just got to do them up somehow now, which involves using pretty well every spanner I own. Whether it's got a bend in it, needs a straight one, needs a 3/8, needs a half-inch drive, needs a wiggle bit. Fun, fun, fun. Well, that's the carbies and manifold on. There's a few doodads to put on as well, hoses and choke cables, accelerator cables, what have you yet. So let's get on with that then. Well, there we go. The carburetors are on. All the hoses are hooked up, accelerator cable, choke cable, vacuum lines, you name it, it's all hooked up. Everything's done up. Spark plugs are only in finger tight and there's no distributor cap on yet, as they'll be coming out to turn it over to build up oil pressure before we attempt to start it. So that's about it. I still need to bleed the clutch and fill everything with its various fluids. Oil in the engine, coolant in the radiator, power steering fluid in the power steering, oil in the carbies, all of those sorts of things, and then it will be time to turn the key and hope for the best. Well, that's about it for this episode. Tune in, same duck time, same duck channel, for more mechanical mayhem on this poor old Triumph 2500 Mark 1. When, wait for it, I'll try and start it. Bye for now.